Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you try, life just keeps pushing you down? You give everything you have, yet the results never seem to come. You're tired, exhausted, and sometimes you just want to quit. In those moments, you ask yourself, do I really have the strength to go on? If you've ever felt this way, this video is for you. Stay with me, because what you'll hear next might just remind you why you should never give up. Have you ever sat in silence at the end of a long day, staring at the ceiling or the screen in front of you, wondering why everything feels so heavy? You wake up every morning, and somehow, the weight of yesterday follows you into today. It's not just exhaustion from work. It's not just deadlines, bills, or the endless to-do lists. It's deeper. It's that quiet voice in your head whispering, what's the point of all this? Maybe you've been carrying dreams inside your heart for years, dreams that once lit you up, dreams that made you feel alive. But somewhere along the way, between responsibilities, mistakes, disappointments, and the constant pressure to keep going, you forgot what it felt like to burn with passion. And now, it feels like you're only moving because the world keeps pushing you, not because you want to. You scroll through your phone late at night, seeing other people's lives flashing across the screen, smiles, successes, celebrations, and you ask yourself, why does it seem so easy for them, while I feel like I'm barely surviving? You tell yourself you should be grateful, that you already have more than some people do. But gratitude feels hollow when your heart is empty. You go through the motions, wake up, work, eat, sleep, repeating the same cycle, day after day, as if life has turned into a loop with no exit. And maybe, in those private moments no one sees, you've thought about giving up. Not necessarily giving up on life itself, but giving up on your goals, your passions, the fight inside you. It feels safer to settle for less than to keep struggling for something that seems so far away. You've whispered to yourself, maybe it's time to stop. Maybe I just wasn't meant to do this. If that's you, know this, you are not alone. Millions of people wake up every single day carrying the same invisible battle. They smile on the outside but feel broken on the inside. They get up, show up, and perform like everything is fine, but deep down, they are tired, tired of running, tired of fighting, tired of pretending. And yet, here you are. Watching this video. Listening to these words. That alone means something. Because even though part of you feels like quitting, another part of you, maybe small, maybe faint, still wants to keep going. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here, searching for a reason, looking for a voice that says, don't give up yet. Maybe you've forgotten why you started. Maybe the memory of your why is buried under stress, under failure, under fear. But it's still there. And in this journey together, we're going to bring it back to life. So let me ask you this, what once set your soul on fire? What once made you believe that your life mattered, that your actions could create meaning? Because the truth is, the reason you want to quit today might be the same reason you started in the first place. And rediscovering that reason could change everything. Let's talk about the truth that so many of us are afraid to admit, losing motivation doesn't happen overnight. It's not like one morning you wake up and suddenly forget why you started. No, it happens slowly, quietly, and almost invisibly. Piece by piece, little by little, your fire gets dimmer until one day you realize you're walking in the dark. Think back. There was once a version of you who dreamed big. You believed in something, whether it was building a career you loved, creating a better life for your family, or simply proving to yourself that you could rise above the struggles you were born into. At some point, you had a vision, and that vision pulled you forward. But then life began to pile up. The weight of expectations, the responsibilities you never asked for, the failures that cut deeper than you expected, they all began to bury that vision. You see, one of the biggest problems we face is disconnection from our why. At first, the reason we start something feels strong enough to carry us through anything. But as days turn into months and months turn into years, the challenges get louder while the reason grows quieter. Eventually, the noise of the world drowns out the voice inside. Let's be honest. Many of us live under constant pressure, the pressure to perform at work, to provide for family, to look successful, to keep up with everyone else. And when you're constantly under pressure, motivation doesn't just disappear, it gets replaced with survival mode. Instead of waking up with excitement, you wake up with dread. Instead of running toward your goals, you run away from exhaustion. You no longer live to thrive, you live to endure. And here's another truth, failure leaves scars. Every time you try something and it doesn't work out, a piece of you starts to question if it's even worth trying again. What if I fail again? What if I waste more time? What if I embarrass myself? Those questions grow louder until they suffocate the courage you once had. But perhaps the deepest reason people lose motivation is this: they forget who they are. They forget that the dreams they once had weren't just fantasies, they were reflections of their heart's deepest desires. When you forget who you are, you start living someone else's life. You work a job you hate just to pay bills. You chase goals that don't even belong to you because society told you they mattered. You smile in photos but cry in silence because you're not living in alignment with your truth. Look around. How many people do you know who are exhausted, drained, and living on autopilot? They're not lazy. They're not weak. They're just stuck in a cycle that makes them forget their reason for living. And once you forget your why, every day starts to feel the same. Every challenge feels impossible. Every victory feels meaningless. So let's name it clearly: the problem is not that you're broken, not that you're weak, not that you're incapable. The problem is that somewhere along the way, you lost connection with your reason. You buried your fire under fear, under failure, under the noise of a demanding world. And until you acknowledge this, you'll keep thinking something is wrong with you. You'll keep comparing yourself to others and believing you're not enough. But the truth is, you don't lack ability, you lack alignment. You don't need to be someone else, you need to remember yourself. This is why you feel like quitting. Not because your dream isn't worth it, but because you can't see the connection between your dream and your daily reality anymore. The distance feels too big, and the weight feels too heavy. And that's exactly why we need to pause, breathe, and go back, not forward, to rediscover the reason that once set your heart on fire. So now that we've named the problem, what do we do with it? How do you carry on when your energy feels drained, when your heart feels heavy, when your dream feels like it belongs to another lifetime? The truth is, there is no magical formula, no overnight fix. But there is always a way forward, one that doesn't demand perfection, but asks only for honesty, presence, and small steps. The first thing you must understand is this: you don't need to feel motivated to move forward. Motivation is not always the starting point. Sometimes it's the result. Waiting to feel inspired before you act is like waiting for the rain to stop before learning how to swim. Action often comes before emotion. Taking one small step, even when you don't feel like it, has the power to reignite what you thought was lost. Think about it. Have you ever dreaded going for a walk or starting a task, but once you took the first step, something shifted? The act itself created energy you didn't have before. This is the paradox of life: we keep waiting for the feeling, but in reality, the feeling often comes after the doing. So here's the first principle: start small, but start. Don't aim to climb the whole mountain today. Just take the next step in front of you. Write one page. Make one call. Go for a 10-minute walk. Drink a glass of water. Simple actions done consistently create momentum, and momentum is what pulls you out of the pit. The second principle is this: return to your why. Remember, the reason you began was not a coincidence. That reason was born out of something that mattered deeply to you. Life may have buried it under responsibility and disappointment, but it's still there. To find it again, ask yourself, what did I want so badly that I was willing to start in the first place? Don't judge the answer. Don't dismiss it as naive or childish. Your why doesn't have to be glamorous. It just has to be real. For some, their why is family. For others, it's the desire for freedom, creativity, or simply the need to prove to themselves that they can. Whatever it is, reconnect with it. Write it down. Speak it out loud. Place reminders of it where you can see them daily. Because when you remember your why, you give meaning back to the struggle. The third principle: shift your perspective on struggle. Most of us treat obstacles as proof that we're on the wrong path. But what if they're not? What if struggle is not a stop sign, but a signpost that you're growing? Think of it this way: muscles don't grow without resistance. Diamonds aren't formed without pressure. Growth and struggle are twins, you cannot have one without the other. The problem is not the presence of struggle, but the meaning you give it. When you see struggle as proof that you're weak, you want to quit. When you see struggle as proof that you're building strength, you keep going. The lens you choose changes everything. And here's the fourth principle: give yourself permission to rest, not quit. Burnout often convinces us that the only option is to walk away completely. But sometimes, what you need is not to stop forever, it's to pause, breathe, and recover. Rest is not the enemy of progress. In fact, rest is what makes progress possible. Even nature understands this: the seasons shift, the fields lie fallow, the trees shed leaves. If you are exhausted, maybe the most courageous act isn't pushing harder, it's allowing yourself the space to heal so you can rise again. Finally, the fifth principle: find meaning in the present, not just the destination. Too many of us postpone happiness until we make it. We tell ourselves we'll feel fulfilled once we reach the goal, get the promotion, buy the house, or achieve the dream. But life doesn't begin when you arrive, it happens in the steps along the way. Ask yourself, how can I live my why in small ways today, not someday? Maybe your dream is to inspire people. You don't need a stage or a million followers to do that. You can inspire someone at your workplace, in your family, in a single conversation. Maybe your goal is financial freedom. You don't need to wait until you're debt-free to practice gratitude for what you already have and to take one small action towards saving or investing. The point is this: the path forward doesn't demand that you leap, it asks that you lean. Lean in, step forward, even if it's trembling. You don't have to feel powerful today. You just need to decide not to give up. So when you feel like quitting, pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, what once made my heart burn with passion? What can I do today, even in the smallest way, to honor that fire? And then do it, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, but today. Because it's not about changing your entire life in one day. It's about choosing not to abandon yourself in this moment. This is how you begin again. This is how you find the road back, not to who you were, but to who you are becoming. There was once a man named Daniel. On the outside, he looked like the kind of person who had life all figured out. A decent job, a small apartment in the city, a circle of acquaintances to grab coffee with. But inside, Daniel was quietly breaking. Every morning, when his alarm went off, he didn't feel the pull of a new day, he felt the weight of another battle he wasn't sure he wanted to fight. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the floor, asking himself the same haunting question: what's the point? He wasn't lazy. He wasn't irresponsible. He wasn't incapable. But life had worn him down. Projects at work piled up, his dreams felt like relics from a past version of himself, and the passion he once carried seemed buried under exhaustion and quiet despair. He remembered how, years ago, he would stay up until 2 a.m. sketching business ideas, writing down goals, and imagining a future where he'd feel alive every single day. But somewhere along the way, bills, responsibilities, and failures dimmed that fire. One evening, after a particularly draining day at work, Daniel found himself walking without direction. He wandered through the city, through the blur of neon signs and rushing cars, until he stopped at an old bookstore he hadn't visited in years. Something pulled him inside. The smell of paper and dust wrapped around him, oddly comforting. He drifted toward the back, where forgotten titles lay stacked in uneven piles. And there, tucked between two worn-out encyclopedias, he found a journal. Not a book, a journal, blank but waiting. Without really thinking, Daniel bought it. That night, he opened it, pen in hand, staring at the first page. His hand trembled. Instead of writing about his day, or his stress, he wrote a single question at the top: why did I start? And then, almost as if something broke open inside him, the words poured out. He remembered being a boy, watching his father work tirelessly at a job he hated, just to keep food on the table. He remembered vowing that one day, he would build a life that made him wake up with purpose. He remembered the spark of creating something from nothing, the thrill of sharing an idea, the warmth of helping someone smile. That was why he started. He wasn't here just to survive. He was here to build, to give, to live. Over the next weeks, Daniel began a quiet ritual. Each morning, instead of scrolling on his phone, he opened his journal and wrote one sentence beginning with, "I started because." Some days, the sentences were powerful. "I started because I want to create something that outlives me." Other days, they were simple. "I started because I don't want to regret never trying." But each word was a reminder, a spark rekindling a flame. Slowly, Daniel shifted. He didn't quit his job overnight. He didn't suddenly become unstoppable. But he began to approach his days differently. He stopped seeing tasks as burdens and began seeing them as stepping stones. He set aside 1 hour each night for his own project, a small online store he had always dreamed of building. He told himself, "Even if I fail, I will fail moving forward." Months passed. Some nights he was exhausted, tempted to give up again. But each time, he flipped back through his journal. There, in his own handwriting, were his reasons. His promises. His why. And that kept him going. One step. One choice. One sentence at a time. 2 years later, Daniel stood in the same bookstore. But this time, he wasn't lost. He wasn't wandering. He was there to drop off a flyer, an invitation to a local event he had organized for young dreamers, people who felt stuck like he once had. His online store had grown into a small business. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy. But it was alive, and so was he. When people asked him what changed, he smiled and said, "I stopped trying to find motivation outside. I remembered why I started inside." And here we are, at the end of this journey together. If you've stayed with me until now, it's not by accident. Something inside you knows you needed to hear these words. Something inside you is still alive, even if it feels buried beneath exhaustion, disappointment, and endless struggle. That small flame, it never left you. I want you to pause for a moment and breathe. Really breathe. Let your shoulders drop. Let your chest expand. Feel that breath, because it is proof that life still moves through you. Proof that no matter how heavy the past has been, you still have this moment. And this moment is enough to begin again. Think back to the times you almost gave up but didn't. The moments you told yourself, just one more step. And you made it through. Life may not have rewarded you instantly, but you survived. And survival itself is a victory. But you are not here just to survive. You are here to live, to create, to love, to fall and rise again. Every scar you carry is not a symbol of weakness, but of strength, because it means you faced the storm and came out the other side. The truth is, there will always be days when you want to quit. Days when you question yourself. But remember this, you don't need to carry the entire mountain today. All you need to do is take one step. One choice. One action that aligns with the reason you began in the first place. Ask yourself right now, why did I start? Was it for freedom? For family? For the dream of a life that felt true to you? Was it because deep down you knew you were meant for more than the quiet suffocation of giving up? That reason, it's still there. It never disappeared. You just stopped listening to it. But now, in this moment, you have the chance to remember. To come back to it. Life will not hand you perfect conditions. Motivation won't magically knock on your door every morning. But discipline, courage, and remembering your why, these will carry you forward when nothing else does. So I leave you with this. When the wait feels unbearable, when the road ahead seems endless, when you can't see the finish line, don't look at how far you still have to go. Look at how far you've come. Look at the strength you've already proven. And then whisper to yourself, I will keep going. Not because it's easy. Not because I feel strong. But because I remember why I started. Your story isn't over. Your flame isn't gone. The world still needs what only you can bring. And if you ever forget, come back to this moment, this truth. The reason you began was never small. It was always big enough to keep you alive. Don't let it go now. Don't let yourself go now. Because one day, you'll look back and realize, the only difference between who you are and who you dreamed of becoming, is that you refuse to quit.